Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere. Quiet. Picture it with me. The air is cool and a little damp, and the world outside your small window is still cloaked in pre-dawn darkness. You can smell the faint, lingering scent of wood smoke and a very distinct, earthy aroma, the kind you only get from old, well-trodden ground. This isn't a grand palace or a bustling Roman forum. It's a tiny, humble cottage in a medieval village. The floorboards beneath your feet are cold, but you're already moving, your body so accustomed to this routine that it performs the motions almost without thought. Your hands, calloused and thick with scars, already know the way to the wash basin. You splash a little water on your face, a shock of cold to chase away the last whispers of sleep. You might, if you're feeling particularly luxurious, even splash some on your neck. You trudge out into the sleepy morning air. The roosters are just starting their chorus, a sound so common you barely register it. You are a blacksmith, and your life is, well, it's remarkably undramatic. You won't be forging a legendary sword to defeat a dragon. You won't be crafting a magical suit of armor for a valiant knight. The reality is, you probably won't even see a knight this year, and you'll spend your days making a lot of very boring things. You probably won't survive this, by the way. I mean, not in the sense that you'll die on the journey, but you'll probably find yourself drifting off into a deep, peaceful sleep long before the first section is over. And that, really, is the point. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your morning is a procession of small, predictable tasks. You don't have a Starbucks run or an email inbox to check. Your first order of business is simply to wake up the forge. You carefully lay a fire, adding a mix of wood and charcoal. The charcoal is what will give you the intense, steady heat you need later on, but for now, the wood helps get things going. You feel the cool iron handles of the bellows, a large leather and wood contraption, and begin to pump. Whoosh, whoosh. The sound is rhythmic and comforting. It's a sound that has echoed through your family for generations, a sound that promises warmth and work. As the flames begin to flicker and grow, you notice the other sounds of the village slowly coming to life. A dog barks somewhere in the distance. The creak of a wagon wheel as a farmer heads to the fields. The distant, gentle clang of a bell from the church tower. These are the soundtrack to your mornings. You watch the heat shimmer above the flames, the air distorting slightly. There is a sense of accomplishment in this simple act. The world is waking up, and so are you. Your hands, you've noticed, are stained with a kind of permanent, greasy grime that no amount of scrubbing seems to remove. It's the constant presence of soot and grease from the bellows, mixed with the iron dust that coats everything in your forge. It's a badge of honor, in a way. If anyone bothered to care about such things, your breakfast is just as mundane as your waking. A slice of coarse bread, and perhaps a little something left over from last night's stew, if you are lucky. You eat quickly, standing near the forge's growing warmth, savoring the feeling of the heat on your face and hands. The food is fuel, nothing more. There's no time for leisurely meals or intricate culinary creations. The day's work is waiting, and it starts with a little bit of maintenance. You'll check your tools, making sure the hammers and tongs are in good repair. A broken tool is a disaster, so you give them a gentle, thorough inspection. This quiet, solitary time is the most peaceful part of your day, a brief moment of calm before the rhythmic clamor begins. You watch the coals begin to glow a deep, steady red. You can see the heat in the air now, a visible force. It's almost hypnotic, isn't it? Just watching the color shift from orange to a fiery, pulsing yellow. Historians still argue about whether blacksmiths in this period were seen as magical or simply skilled laborers. But to you, standing here in the early morning quiet, it's just a job. A very, very dusty job. The forge is now a roaring, breathing beast, and it's time to get to work. Your main tools are a small army of hammers, each one with a slightly different weight and purpose. There's the big, heavy sledgehammer for the initial shaping of the iron. There's a smaller, more nimble cross-peen hammer for spreading the metal in a specific direction. And then you have a simple ball-peen hammer for rounding out corners. They aren't fancy. They're just chunks of iron, worn smooth by generations of use. You also have a set of tongs, which are essentially giant metal chopsticks for gripping the hot iron, and a selection of punches and chisels for making holes and cutting the metal. That's about it. This isn't a modern workshop with a laser cutter and an automated drill press. You are the power tool. The process is the same every time. You take a piece of raw iron, probably a rough bar from a local mine, and you place it into the fire. You don't just throw it in, of course. You carefully nestle it amongst the glowing coals, making sure it's surrounded by the hottest parts of the fire. And you wait. While you wait, you might do some other minor tasks. Perhaps you sweep the forge floor, a futile but necessary task, trying to contain the endless tide of soot and iron filings. You might sharpen a chisel on a whetstone, the rhythmic she, a soothing sound in the morning quiet. There's a particular kind of patience required for this work. It's not about rushing. It's about heat and time. The iron has to be just right. If it's too cold, it won't move, and you'll just be hammering a useless, stubborn hunk of metal. If it's too hot, it will crumble and spark, turning into what blacksmiths call burnt iron, which is useless. The color is your guide. It starts as a dull red, and brightens to orange, then yellow, and finally, a white-hot, blinding light. Most of your work will be done when the iron is a bright orange-yellow, what's known as forging heat. This is a mainstream historical fact that's still true today. Metalworkers still rely on the visual cues of color to judge temperature. It's an ancient art form that still works. And here's a quirky tidbit. Some blacksmiths, particularly those making finer items, would use a very unscientific method to judge temperature. They'd spit on the metal. The way the spittle sizzled and evaporated gave them a quick, if not entirely accurate, sense of how hot the iron was. It's a method that probably came with a lot of burnt fingers and a lot of cursing. But it worked in a pinch. You, being a sensible person, prefer the slow, steady method of just watching the color. It's a lot less messy. You finally pull a piece of iron from the fire with your tongs. It glows a magnificent, pulsing orange. The heat radiates from it, making the air around it shimmer. The sound of the first hammer blow on the anvil is a beautiful thing. It's a clear, resonant clang. Not a crash or a bang, but a deep, satisfying ring. You are not a blacksmith without a strong, sturdy anvil after all. And that anvil, that solid block of iron, is your most important companion. The work itself is a sequence of slow, deliberate movements. You place the glowing piece of iron on the anvil and hit it. Then you turn it. Then you hit it again. Clang, clang, clang. The sound fills the forge, echoing off the stone walls and the wooden rafters. You have to be quick, but not rushed. The iron cools fast, and you have to get your shaping done before it's too cold to work. The heat from the iron feels good on your skin, a warm counterpoint to the cool draft coming in from the open door. It's a simple back and forth, a kind of rhythmic dance between you, the hammer, and the iron, and you repeat it over and over, shaping a nail, forging a horseshoe, mending a hinge. This is the bulk of your life. The rhythmic clang of hammer on anvil is a kind of gentle, repetitive meditation. It's boring in a way. You're not creating a masterpiece. You're just making sure the world keeps moving, one horseshoe and one hinge at a time. The simple act of hammering is an ancient, soothing rhythm. Historians still argue about whether the village blacksmith was a respected artisan or just a common tradesman. But you don't care about their debates. You're just trying to get through the day. The sun has risen fully now, and the first customers begin to trickle in. You'll be mending things mostly. The broken hinge from a barn door, a horseshoe that has come loose from a farmer's horse, a bent iron rim from a cartwheel. These are not dramatic life and death repairs. They are the small, essential fixes that keep a community functioning. A farmer might bring you a plowshare to sharpen, its edge dulled by countless passes through the soil. You'll heat it up, carefully hammer the edge to a finer point, and then quench it in your trough of water. SSSSSHH? The sound of the sizzling iron is a familiar and comforting sound, a kind of punctuation to your day. You hand the farmer back his plowshare, and he nods in thanks. No fanfare, no grand ceremony, just a quiet exchange of labor for a few copper coins. The work is repetitive, almost mind-numbing, and that's precisely why it's so soothing. Your body knows the rhythm. The swing of the hammer, the gentle turn of the iron on the anvil, the precise moment to plunge it into the water. It's a dance you've done thousands of times, and it requires less thought than muscle memory. You've probably noticed that the most common items you forge are nails. Just nails. A whole lot of them. Every house, every cart, every piece of furniture needs nails. You spend hours simply drawing out the iron, cutting it, and hammering the heads into shape. You'll make hundreds of them in a single day, each one a tiny, unremarkable piece of the village's infrastructure. This is what you do. This is your legacy. And it is entirely unglamorous. It's so repetitive, you could do it in your sleep. And if you're lucky, you're doing just that. You can almost feel the vibrations of each hammer strike, traveling up your arm and into your shoulder. The muscles in your back and legs are strong from a lifetime of this work, but they ache in a way that's familiar and almost comforting. You are a human machine, a tool in your own right, powered by simple food and fueled by the fire you tend. There are no fancy tricks here, no hidden secrets, just a fundamental understanding of how heat and force can transform a raw material into a useful object. This is a mainstream historical fact. Blacksmiths were the original makers and recyclers of their world. A bent tool wasn't thrown away. It was brought to you, heated up, and hammered back into shape. It was a time when things were fixed, not replaced. A quirky tidbit for you. Some medieval blacksmiths were also dentists. Not because they were trained in medicine, but because they had the tools and the brute force to pull a tooth. Imagine that. You come to the blacksmith's forge, expecting him to fix your plow, and he pulls out a pair of large, terrifying tongs and tells you to open wide. It's a testament to the fact that people simply used whatever was available to them. It was a kind of jack-of-all-trades era, and the blacksmith was at the heart of it. But for you, thank goodness, dentistry is not on the menu today. You stick to what you know. Iron. You focus on the rhythm, the simple clang of the hammer. You've heard that same sound from your father, and his father before him. It's a sound that has carried on for centuries, a kind of historical drone that hums the world along. Historians still argue whether the invention of the water wheel-powered hammer was a blessing or a curse for the simple village blacksmith. But for you, with your own hands and your own hammer, it doesn't matter. Your work is slow, and it is yours alone. Your forge is a world of its own, a small, dark, and wonderfully grimy universe. The walls are blackened with decades of soot. The floor, a mix of packed earth and ash, is uneven and lumpy. It's a place of function, not of comfort. There are no paintings on the wall, no decorative flourishes. The only art is the raw, elemental beauty of heat and iron. Sunlight struggles to penetrate the small, smoke-stained window, so the interior is always in a kind of gentle, dusty twilight. The only true light source is the roaring fire itself, which casts long dancing shadows that make your tools look like strange ancient creatures. Your anvil, that great, heavy block of iron, sits in the center of it all. It's an heirloom, passed down through your family, its top surface worn and slightly bowed from 1,000 hammer blows. It has a song, you think. The sound it makes is a kind of deep, ringing bong when you hit it just right, and a dull thud when you don't. You know, it's every curve and every blemish. It is your partner in this quiet, repetitive work. Hanging on the walls are various simple hooks and racks, holding your collection of hammers, tongs, and punches. There's a rack for finished items, a few horseshoes, a bundle of nails, a repaired kettle handle. These are the small, tangible results of your labor. The air is always thick with a metallic tang, mixed with the scent of burning charcoal and a faint, sweet smell of the steam that rises from the quenching trough. You have a bucket of water right next to the forge, which you'll splash on the fire occasionally to keep the embers from getting too out of control. The sudden hiss, a brief, dramatic moment in a very undramatic day. You might even have a small bucket of what you would call sludge, a mix of charcoal dust and water that you can use to coat your tools so that the hot iron doesn't stick to them as easily. It's an old trick of the trade, a little secret you learned from your father. The entire space is designed for one purpose, to make your work slightly less difficult. It's not a place for leisure or rest. It's a place of purpose. A quirky tidbit that might make you smile. Some of the more superstitious blacksmiths would hang a horseshoe over the door. It wasn't just for luck. It was to ward off bad luck and evil spirits. The iron was seen as a powerful element, a kind of counter-magic to defy folk. You, however, prefer to believe in the power of a good hammer and a hot fire. Besides, you're far too busy making horseshoes to worry about where to hang them. A lot of your time is simply spent waiting for the fire to get hot enough, waiting for the iron to come to temperature, waiting for a customer to arrive. There is a lot of silence in your day, punctuated only by the rhythmic pump of the bellows and the occasional clang. This is a mainstream historical fact. The blacksmith was often one of the first tradesmen to be able to read and write, as their work required them to measure and calculate. But for you, the knowledge is more practical. It's in your hands, in your body. It's an intuitive, physical understanding of the world. Historians still argue whether the village blacksmith was a social hub or a solitary figure. You'd say it's a bit of both. You're alone for long stretches, surrounded by your tools and the silence. But then a customer comes, and for a brief moment, your world expands to include theirs. You'll hear the local gossip, the small town news. You're the one who sees everyone, from the lowest farmer to the occasional traveling merchant. You're a quiet observer, a listening ear, a silent fixture in the life of the village. And as you wait for the iron to heat up, you can't help but hear the sounds of the world outside: children laughing, a woman singing, a church bell ringing. This place, your forge, is a kind of gentle anchor, a steady, unchanging point in a world that is always in flux. The midday sun is high now, and the small amount of light that enters your forge feels warmer. A customer enters, a farmer with a broken scythe blade. He's not in a hurry, and neither are you. You exchange a few words about the weather and the recent harvest. He talks, and you listen, your hands never stopping their work. You take the scythe blade, inspect the crack, and nod slowly. He tells you a story about a stubborn patch of weeds, and you offer a quiet hum of acknowledgement. This is the extent of your social life. It's not a party or a bustling town hall meeting. It's a slow, gentle exchange of information and a transaction that has been happening for centuries. You are a resource, a point of contact, a silent observer of the village's comings and goings. You can tell a lot about a person from what they bring you to fix. A finely made sword from a wealthy merchant, a clumsy cooking pot from a poor widow. Each item tells a story, and you, in your quiet way, are a part of all of them. But these are just brief interruptions in the long, slow rhythm of your day. The farmer leaves, and the quiet descends again. The only sounds are the fire's gentle roar and the soft clang of your hammer. The world outside the forge is a constant parade of small dramas and triumphs. But inside, your world is steady and predictable. This is a mainstream historical fact. Blacksmiths often serve as the community's primary source of news and gossip, as people from all walks of life would visit their forge. You're the original social media network. You just don't know it. A quirky tidbit that you might find amusing is that some medieval guilds, particularly in larger towns, had very specific rules for blacksmiths. You weren't allowed to work on Sunday. You weren't allowed to have a light on in your forge after a certain hour. And you certainly weren't allowed to reveal the secrets of your trade to outsiders. These rules were meant to protect the livelihood of the guild members. But for you, in your small, sleepy village, such rules are irrelevant. Your only law is the sun and the moon. You work when there is light, and you rest when there is darkness. It's a simple, uncomplicated life, devoid of the petty politics of the city. Historians still argue whether these guilds helped or hindered innovation, but you simply don't care. Your life is about one thing, and one thing only: the quiet, steady beat of your hammer on the anvil. You've heard that somewhere, haven't you? The forge is warm now, almost uncomfortably so. The fire is at its peak, and you feel the sweat bead on your forehead. You'll take a break soon, but for now, there's another piece of iron to work. You pull it from the fire, its orange glow casting a brief, beautiful light on your face. You place it on the anvil. Clang. The sound is a little different this time, a little more resonant, as if the anvil has warmed up with the day. The iron bends and yields under your hammer, a soft, malleable thing. It's a testament to the power of heat and a gentle, consistent force. You are not a hero. You are not a king. You are just a blacksmith, doing your part, one quiet hammer blow at a time. The work continues, slow and steady, a gentle rhythm that will lull you to sleep before you know it. Remember that farmer who brought you his broken scythe? Well, you've fixed it now, and he's gone. And you're left with the quiet, the heat, and the slow dance of your work. The afternoon stretches on, a long, slow progression of small tasks. The sun begins its slow descent, and the light in the forge softens from a harsh glare to a gentle, dusty gold. Your work slows with it. The fire, which has been roaring all day, is now allowed to cool a little. There's a certain peace in this winding down. You might be working on a more complex item now, something that requires a bit more care and finesse. Perhaps a hook for a pot to hang from, or a decorative handle for a chest. These are the rare moments of artistic expression in an otherwise purely functional life. You're not trying to create a masterpiece, of course, just something a little nicer than a simple nail. You take your time. The hammer blows softer now, the ring of the anvil a little less forceful. The villagers have mostly retired for the day. The only sounds from outside are the gentle mooing of cows returning to their barns and the soft clatter of kitchen pots. It's a peaceful time. You might sit down for a moment on a small, worn stool and just watch the embers glow. You'll grab a piece of bread and maybe a bit of cheese, your simple supper. This is your time to be still, to rest your aching muscles. Your hands, you'll notice, are stained with a kind of permanent, greasy grime that no amount of scrubbing seems to remove. It's the constant presence of soot and grease from the bellows, mixed with the iron dust that coats everything in your forge. It's a badge of honor, in a way, if anyone bothered to care about such things. A quirky tidbit: some medieval blacksmiths were required to perform small, odd services for the local lord. This could be anything from sharpening a sword for a soldier to fixing the lock on a treasury box. These tasks were often unpaid, a kind of feudal tax on your skills. You, in your quiet little village, are lucky enough to be free from such burdens. You answer only to yourself and the needs of your neighbors. This is a mainstream historical fact. The relationship between the Lord and the common tradesman was often a complex one, a mix of obligation and grudging respect. You, however, are a simple man. You have no Lord to serve. You just have iron to hammer. Historians still argue whether the invention of the water wheel-powered hammer was a blessing or a curse for the simple village blacksmith. But for you, with your own hands and your own hammer, it doesn't matter. Your work is slow, and it is yours alone. As the light fades, you'll perform the final, gentle rites of your day. You'll bank the fire, carefully covering the hot coals with ash to keep them alive for the morning. You'll clean your tools, a brief, calming ritual of oil and cloth. And then you'll close up the shop, the heavy wooden door making a familiar thud as you pull it shut. The air outside is cool and a little damp, and the world is now cloaked in a gentle evening darkness. You trudge back to your humble cottage, the day's work done. The rhythmic clang of the hammer is gone from the air, replaced by the soft chirp of crickets. The silence is a kind of music, a gentle hum that promises a long, quiet night. You are just a blacksmith, doing your part, one quiet hammer blow at a time. The world is at peace, and so are you. You are home. The cottage is small, simple, and warm with the heat of a small hearth fire. You wash your hands, but the grime, as always, seems to have become a part of you. It's a kind of second skin, a map of all the days you have spent in the forge. You sit down by the fire, your muscles tired, but your mind at peace. The day's work is done, and it was a good day. No drama, no excitement, just the satisfying rhythm of creation and repair. You are a small, quiet part of a very large world, and you are comfortable with that fact. You've earned this rest. The legacy of a medieval blacksmith is not found in history books or heroic poems. It is found in the everyday objects that you've touched. The plowshare that helps a family grow food. The nails that hold a house together. The horseshoes that allow a horse to travel. Your work is woven into the very fabric of the village. A quirky tidbit about this that might make you smile. The medieval blacksmith was sometimes also a barber and a surgeon, as the tools used to cut iron could also be used for minor amputations. But again, you are lucky to be in a quiet, boring village, where your skills are only required for the most mundane of tasks. Your life is an endless, calming loop of routine, and it is a good life. Historians still argue whether the invention of the water wheel-powered hammer was a blessing or a curse for the simple village blacksmith. But for you, with your own hands and your own hammer, it doesn't matter. Your work is slow, and it is yours alone. And now, as the fire in your hearth fades to a soft orange glow, you can feel the sleepiness creeping in. The air in your cottage is heavy and warm. You're not a hero, you're not a king, and you're certainly not on a grand adventure. You are just a blacksmith, and your life is a masterpiece of the mundane. A quiet, gentle existence that asks nothing more of you than to wake up, to work, and to sleep. The past, you see, isn't always filled with great battles and epic journeys. Sometimes it's just a quiet evening by a fire, a body tired from honest work, and the silent satisfaction of a job well done. You close your eyes. The image of the glowing coals from your forge is the last thing you see. A soft, gentle orange pulsing behind your eyelids. There's a quiet hum in the air now. Maybe it's the last whisper of the fire. Maybe it's the gentle breeze outside. It's a sound that promises rest. Your mind is quiet. The day's work is done. The rhythmic clang of the hammer is now just a memory, a soft echo that lulls you into a peaceful slumber. All of the worries of the day, all of the small, mundane tasks, they are all fading away, just like the light from the fire. You are safe. You are warm, and you are tired. Just let your body go, sinking into the soft bed, feeling the weight of the day's honest labor. The world is at peace, and so are you. The past is a quiet place. Let it hold you. Let it rock you to sleep. Just breathe. Softly gently and let yourself drift into the deep, peaceful silence of the long ago. A world of just quiet. And sleep.